Imagine that your search ads are so well written that your customers can't resist clicking them. Meanwhile, your campaign spends your budget efficiently, maximizing the return on every dollar you put into it. I want that for you. So I've boiled down years of my own Google Ads experience, as well as agency-tested tips and strategies from ROImonks, the agency where I work, into a 5-pillar formula for pro-level search campaigns in 2026. And the first pillar is your campaign's setup and settings. So in this video, I'm going to take you step by step through the entire search campaign setup, tell you exactly what settings to choose and what nuances to consider, and I'll reveal the rest of the pro-level search campaign formula as we move through the setup. You might need to take notes today because we're diving deep and there are some crucial decisions, planning, and homework ahead of you if you want to take your campaign to the next level. Feel free to use the timestamps in the video description if you're interested in a specific part of the setup. And without further ado, let's jump straight into a Google Ads account and set up your campaign. So, first of all, open your Google Ads account, click this big plus create button and select campaign. As the first step, select your campaign objective. All this does is automatically pre-selects certain settings and streamlines your campaign creation a bit. If you don't want any campaign creation guidance, you can select create a campaign without guidance, but personally, I find it useful. If you're in e-commerce, select sales, and if you are in lead generation, select leads. In my case, I'm going to select sales. Next, you need to choose your conversion goal for your campaign. This goal is going to contain the event you tell your campaign to optimize for. So if you're in e-commerce, here you should add your purchase event. And if you are in lead gen, this should be your lead form submission event. If you don't have a conversion goal set up in your account, pause this video, go on YouTube and search for how to set up conversion tracking for Google Ads on your website platform, implement it, and then come back to this video. In my case, for this tutorial, I'm going to remove this additional other default goal and I'm going to create a campaign focused just on purchases. After you've added your conversion goal, click continue. Under campaign type, select search. Next, select the ways you'd like to reach your goal. This again, just going to help you with your campaign setup. In most cases, this is going to be website visits. Just type in your website URL here and then click continue. Then add your campaign name. In this tutorial, I will be creating a campaign for an apparel brand, specifically a campaign for jeans. So I will name it Search Jeans. Now on the left, you see the steps of the campaign setup, and the first step of the setup is bidding. You have 4 options here: conversions, conversion value, clicks, and impression share. Conversions means that you want Google to maximize the number of conversion events, whether it's a sale or a lead submission event. Conversion value, as the name implies, means you want to maximize the value of your conversions, for example, your sales revenue. Under conversions, Google will treat every conversion the same, while with conversion value, Google will adjust its bidding to bid more for people who are likely to spend more. I have actually made an entire video about bidding strategies and how they work, but in short, I strongly believe that in 95% of cases, you should be focusing on either conversions or conversion value if you're tracking the value of your conversions. For conversions, you can set the target cost per action. For conversion value, you can set the target return on ad spend, maximum cost per click on clicks, and additional options for impression share. If this all sounds too complicated and confusing, I really went into detail about all of this in my other video, but the key point is that when it comes to setting the target for new campaigns, especially if you're working with limited data or if it's a new account, I suggest starting out without a target. just leave it unchecked, but eventually your goal should be to switch to target ROAS or target CPA, ideally as soon as you have conversions rolling in consistently for 2 or 3 weeks. Next is customer acquisition section. And this gives you an option to adjust your bidding to help you focus more on acquiring new customers rather than promoting to existing customers. And the logic here is that acquiring a new customer is often more valuable than getting a sale from an existing customer, as the new customer can bring you additional sales in the future that you wouldn't otherwise have. That's why companies are often willing to pay more per sale if it also brings in a new customer. Essentially, this option allows you to tell Google that you're willing to pay more for a click from a potentially new customer, and this way you're more likely to outbid your competitors and get in front of these valuable first-time customers. I believe that you must have some conversion history in your account for this option to become available, but if you select it, you can choose whether you just want to bid higher for new customers or you want to bid exclusively for new customers. If you're trying to generate leads, then in majority of cases, you no longer need to advertise to people who have already become your leads, as it's a waste of your budget. So this option is usually a must-have for lead generation, or if you have a certain budget that is strictly set towards acquiring new customers. But if you select bid higher for new customers, there is some setup required here. Specifically, you need to first add an incremental conversion value for new customers. And second, you need to add the audience of your customers to help Google identify them. For this, you can either upload your customer list in Audience Manager, or you can also use your GA4 audiences here as well. You also have an option to define high-value new customers. But if this sounds too complicated or irrelevant, you can just leave it unchecked, especially in the context of search, where whether a person is your existing customer or not, but they're still looking for something that you're offering, you still want your ads to get in front of them. So often, if you are in e-commerce or you don't have your unit economics calculated, you can just leave this unchecked. You can always change this setting later. If you're in lead gen, I recommend choosing bid exclusively for new customers. The next step is your campaign settings. Starting with the networks. Straight off the bat, I suggest unchecking Google Display Network. I recommend setting up a dedicated display campaign instead. Watch this video to help you do that. When it comes to Google Search Partners Network, this really depends on the market where you advertise in, because in developing markets, search partners are usually trash, but in developed English-speaking markets like the United States, UK, Australia, sometimes a search partners network can work. So I basically suggest the following. For developing markets, just uncheck it straight away. If you advertise in the USA, UK, or Australia, you can test it out. Just make sure you're keeping an eye on it every day to see how much your campaign is spending on search partners. For my case, I'm just going to uncheck it. Next, select locations where you want to target people. You have an option not only to target countries and states and cities, but also to target with a radius around a place or an address. So if you're a local business and you want to target, for example, just within 5 miles of your physical location, you can choose this option. Under location options, you have an option to select presence or interest, which means people in or regularly in or who have shown interest in your locations, or presence, meaning people in or regularly in your included locations. Even though presence and interest is recommended by Google, I usually suggest including just presence unless there is a business logic for you to target people who are interested in your location but might not be living in that location. Next is the languages section. Just add the languages your customers speak here. Next is the EU political ads section. If your campaign does not have any European Union political ads, select No. Under audience segments, you're able to add some audiences for either targeting or observation. The targeting option is going to narrow the reach of your campaign by the selected audiences that you add here, while observation will not narrow your reach, but instead will just measure your performance against those audiences. And here you actually have a lot of options available to you. You can add certain demographics by parental status, marital status, education, home ownership. In some markets, you're even able to segment by household income. You can also target by interests via affinity audiences, in-market audiences, your own data segments, and customer lists as well. Since this is a search campaign, I usually recommend steering away from audience targeting here because the keywords are usually more than enough to figure out intent. And I recommend you use this search bar and type a bunch of keywords that are relevant to your product or service, your industry, or your market. You can also browse the available affinity and in-market audiences, demographics, and so on. Add as many observation audiences as possible because later, when you're doing your campaign analysis and looking through your reports, you might discover that for certain audience segments, your ads are outperforming, and you can later use this knowledge to add this audience as targeting signal for your other campaigns. Under more settings for ad rotation, leave it on optimize. For start and end dates, leave it on unchanged unless you have an end date for your campaign in mind. Otherwise, you can just always pause your campaign. For ad schedule, keep this on all days unless you have a certain business logic. Like, for example, if you want your ads to be seen only during your work hours, you can add your ad schedule here, but otherwise leave it unchanged. For campaign URL options, you can leave this unchanged unless you're using an analytics system outside of Google. If so, you can add your tracking template, final URL suffix, and custom parameters here. Otherwise, leave it unchanged. And page feeds are for specifying the landing page URLs used in your ads, most commonly used for dynamic search ads and performance max campaigns. By uploading a spreadsheet containing a list of your URLs and optional custom labels, you can get more precise control over which pages appear in your ads. I suggest leaving page feeds empty unless you have a business reason for it. The next step is AI Max, and this is a new feature. As you can see, it is still in beta, but we've actually run a complete 20K test on AI Max, and I shared our results in this video. I strongly recommend you watch it, but to make a long story short, the idea behind it is to let Google AI write your ad copy for you, define your targeting for you, and even select the landing page for you automatically. However, AI Max does not replace your standard search ad groups, your standard keywords, and your responsive search ads. In fact, it's helpful to think about AI Max as another, more automated and broader layer of your search advertising that is using your standard ad groups, your keywords, and your assets that you provided in your ad groups in order to help AI Max in its optimizations. So in this way, AI Max is heavily reliant on your standard search ad groups, yet your AI Max ads will be separate from your responsive search ads, and you will have separate performance metrics for your AI Max ads as well. So with this background information on AI Max out of the way, let's get back to the campaign setup. It's essentially a setting that if you turn it on, it's going to give you some options at the campaign and ad group levels. First, you have text customization. If you keep it on, you're going to allow Google AI to write your ad copy for you. But don't worry, You will later be able to see exactly what ad copy AI Max has written for you. And if you leave it unchecked, then AI Max is going to stick strictly to the headlines and descriptions that you have manually added to your campaign. And final URL expansion is going to allow Google to choose the landing pages for your AI Max ads. Again, if you leave this unchecked, then AI Max is going to stick strictly to the landing pages that you provided in your campaign. And here you also have an option to exclude some URLs from your final URL expansion. But if you're planning to use AI Max, I suggest keeping both these options on, and that is what we've done in our testing as well. Unless you have strict compliance or business requirements and you need to have strict control over your ad copy or landing pages, I suggest using both these settings. When it comes to brand inclusions and brand exclusions, they're pretty self-explanatory. Brand inclusions means your campaign will only serve for queries associated with the brands you select. Brand exclusions means your campaign won't serve for queries associated with a brand that you're wanting to avoid. My recommendation here, and this is a big pro tip from the agency, if your campaign is for non-branded queries, then exclude your own brand here so that AI Max doesn't dip into your branded traffic. On the other hand, if you're actively targeting people who search your brand on Google, then go ahead and add your own brand or a list of brands here under brand inclusions. Now, there are a lot of prerequisites that, based on our experience, you need to check off before you use AI Max. I cover all of them in this video, but the two most important things are that you need to have a very strong and up-to-date site that represents your brand, your product, or your service really well, because AI Max is going to be using the content and landing pages from your website to craft ads and to select landing pages. You also need to have a mature Google Ads account in which you're already successfully using broad match keywords, because AI Max is basically going to expand your targeting to broad match and keywordless technology. So if you're currently in your account using only exact match or phrase match, then I suggest steering away from AI Max right now. Before we move on to the next step of the campaign setup, let's cover the second pillar of a successful pro-level search campaign, which is your campaign structure. The right campaign structure will assure that you're showing the right ads to the right user, while the wrong campaign structure will leave you with terrible click-through rates and wasted budget. To figure out why, let's start with Google Ads hierarchy. Essentially, at the top of your account, you have your account level settings. Your account consists of campaigns, which themselves consist of ad groups or asset groups. In the context of search, we're talking about ad groups, and each ad group contains keywords and ads. Therefore, there are 2 points that you need to have in mind when it comes to your campaign structure. Number 1, how do you group your search campaigns? And number 2, how do you group your ad groups? When it comes to the first question, there are 2 approaches you can try out. First, you can take a multi-campaign approach where you're creating different search campaigns for different product or service categories with their own budgets and bidding targets. In my case, I could have a separate campaign for jeans, jackets, sweaters, and so on. The second approach is a consolidated approach where you group all your search ad groups into a single search campaign or a portfolio with a single search-wide budget and bidding target, and you let Google optimize how much to spend on everything within your campaign. Under this approach, you would put all apparel, including jeans, jackets, sweaters, etc., into a single search campaign. The advantage of the first approach is that you will have control over how much you're spending on each product category. But one key point to consider is that ideally, your search campaign should generate at least 30 conversion events every 30 days or one per day on average, because Google AI and smart bidding strategies need sufficient conversion data to learn and optimize effectively. You can be successful with less conversions rolling in, but 30 conversions per month usually delivers the best performance. So keep this in mind when deciding your search campaign structure. If you are working with a limited data, steer towards a consolidated approach. Now, when it comes to how to group your ad groups should be grouped around a tightly themed set of keywords with highly relevant ads and landing pages. In my example of a campaign for jeans, I would create a separate ad group for skinny jeans, tapered jeans, blue jeans, and so on. And for each ad group, I would add relevant keywords and I would craft a super specific ad for these specific keywords, meaning in my skinny jeans ad group, my keywords and my ads would be focused on skinny jeans, and I would also use a skinny jeans themed landing page as well. And that's essentially what Google wants from you. Google wants you to provide relevant ads for what people are searching for on Google, and they want people to have a good experience on your website. So if you focus on that, you will maximize your chances of being successful with Google search ads. On the other hand, if your ads don't match what a user types on Google, or if people abandon your landing page immediately, Google will punish you with lower ad rank and lower keyword quality scores, which will make you less competitive in your ad auctions. Now, with the second pillar in mind, let's move to the next step of the campaign setup, which is keyword and asset generation. And this is another optional Google AI feature that can help you create your ads and choose your keywords. What you need to do is add your final URL and describe the product or service that you want to advertise for each ad group, and then click generate. From my experience, it's generally not particularly strong when it comes to writing your headlines and descriptions. So if you choose to use it, you should still go through all its headlines, descriptions, and keywords to make sure it has added relevant ones. That said, sometimes it can give you ideas for keywords, headlines, or descriptions that you might not have otherwise come up with. So play around with it and see what headlines and descriptions it suggests. I already have my keywords and headlines and descriptions prepared, so I'm going to skip asset generation. But whether you choose to use keywords that Google recommends or not, it's important for you to understand the third pillar of a successful search campaign, which is your targeting. When we discussed your campaign structure, we already covered that your ad groups should be built around tightly themed keywords, and keywords are essentially the backbone of your search targeting. But there are so many keywords you can target, and all these keywords have different match types, so which keywords should you use? Plus, you have dynamic search with its keywordless targeting, plus you have AI Max with its search term matching. I understand that it can be confusing and overwhelming, especially for beginners, but essentially, all these different targeting options are just different ways to reach people typing specific searches on Google. In Google Ads, they are called search terms, and you can find what search terms your ads get shown for in your search term report. The traditional and still the most effective way to target on search is via keywords, which, depending on their match type, are going to trigger different search terms. I've made an entire video about how to choose profitable keywords for your search campaigns, but essentially, there are 3 key points I want you to focus on when it comes to your keywords. Number 1, prioritize high purchase intent or transactional keywords. Profitable keywords come from users who are ready to take action. For example, if a user searches for how to choose running shoes for flat feet, they likely have informational intent. They are researching and comparing options, not necessarily ready to purchase right now. On the other hand, If a user searches for black running shoes size 9, they clearly have commercial intent, they know what they want, and they're looking to buy. Number 2, choose keywords with solid volume and reasonable CPC. Finding profitable keywords is about balancing demand and cost. So use Google Keyword Planner to find ideas for keywords, check their average monthly search volumes and top of the page bid range. Try to avoid keywords with under 50 searches per month and the ones that are too expensive. Number 3, don't be afraid to go broad when necessary. In 2026, Google is so much better at understanding the meaning behind your keywords as well as the intent behind the user's search. And that's why my recommendation is not to be afraid to go broader with your targeting and let Google find the right search terms for you. In addition, Google has publicly stated that about 15% of all search queries every day are entirely new, meaning they have never been typed on Google before. As search evolves, search queries are becoming longer and more complex, so it's becoming more and more important to use broad match. For example, if you're targeting a keyword running shoes in exact match, your ads would show for searches like running shoes, shoes for running, running shoe. But if you target the same keyword in broad match, your ads would be eligible to show for all the searches listed above, plus a wider variety of related searches that Google AI determines are relevant for your business. In addition, when using broad match, the system also considers additional signals like your landing pages, other keywords in your ad group, and previous user searches to match more relevant traffic. So I can confidently tell you, based on my experience, that in 2026, broad match plus smart bidding, meaning target CPA or target ROAS, is the most profitable keyword setup for most accounts, as long as you're working with sufficient amount of data. As a result, when it comes to keywords, if your account is brand new or if you're working with a small budget, my recommendation is to start with a mix of high intent yet affordable exact match and phrase match keywords. If your account already has some conversion data, I highly suggest throwing in broad match keywords in there as well. With this important background information on keywords out of the way, let's get back to the campaign setup. So rename your ad group, and based on your research and your planned campaign and ad group structure, add your keywords here. And these keywords are going to be like the ground layer of your targeting in this specific ad group. And I'm going to explain other levels of targeting such as AI Max and dynamic search ads as we move forward through this setup. Just keep in mind that these keywords are not the only way for you to target in your campaign, but this is like the base level, and it's essential for you to choose the right keywords here. Next is the ad group settings for AI Max. If you've chosen not to use AI Max at the campaign level, this section will not be editable for you and you can skip it entirely. Otherwise, there are a few ad group level settings available for you here. Search term matching allows your AI Max ads to go broader in terms of targeting. Essentially, AI Max takes the keywords you're using in this ad group and expands them to broad match while also leveraging keywordless targeting technology as well. If you leave this option unchecked, AI Max will stick strictly to the keywords you've added to this ad group. In either case, you'll still be able to see exactly which search queries your AI Max ads appear for in the search term report. So don't be afraid to test this feature. You'll have full visibility into what searches your ads or specifically your AI Max ads are actually showing for. And you will also be able to see performance of your regular keywords and your AI Max ads separately. You also have here brand inclusions, which lets you limit the ad group to searches related to specific brands, overriding campaign level settings. This is particularly useful for managing multiple brands for precise control over which ad copy appears for which brand searches. Locations of interest targets users based on their expressed interest in specific locations, working together with your campaign level location targeting. If location of interest is irrelevant to you, then you can just skip it. URL inclusions restrict AI Max to specific landing pages for the ad group. It's useful for compliance requirements or specific business logic. Generally, it's best to let AI Max select the landing page for you. As I already mentioned, there are a lot of nuances when it comes to AI Max, but a couple of quick tips that I can share with you here is to keep search term matching on and not to limit AI Max when it comes to landing pages as well, unless you have strict compliance or business requirements. Now, let's create your ads, and this is the perfect time to discuss the fourth pillar of a successful search campaign, which is your messaging. And this is where a lot of advertisers drop the ball. They spend so much time on their targeting, on their bidding, their budget allocation, and then they just slap together some generic headlines and descriptions. Writing effective Google Ads headlines is a large topic in itself. I made a separate video about it. I also created a list of my top 10 irresistible Google Ads headlines. You can download this list for free using the link in the description. But in short, I'd suggest you first spend some quality time researching and understanding your target audiences, your customer personas, and their pain points. The best way to do this is ridiculously simple. Read your customer reviews or social media comments. If you don't have your own, read your competitors' reviews and comments. Check Amazon reviews, Trustpilot, Reddit, Quora. Check LinkedIn if you're in B2B. Ask AI chatbots to scan and summarize reviews for you, because customer reviews are a gold mine. People will tell you exactly what they care about, what problems they have, what language resonates with them. As you're reading, write down any keywords, phrases, or emotional language that catch your attention, or things that you see repeating again and again. If multiple people mention the same thing, you know it's important. You should also check out what your competitors are doing. Use Google Ads Transparency Center or just search your keywords on Google directly and see what ads show up. If an ad is at the top of search results, it means it's working. The copy is relevant, the landing page delivers. See what benefits they're emphasizing, what language they're using. Also check competitors in other markets as well. Sometimes you can find ideas you wouldn't have otherwise thought of. And after you've done your research, think about how you can stand out. Do you have a better offer? Do you have a unique feature, a better quality, faster shipping? Create a list of your unique selling points and try to emphasize them in your headlines, descriptions, and your landing page. Because here's the reality. Even if your ad is at the top of search results, it's sitting next to up to 3 other ads, plus sometimes shopping results, plus organic results. So if you don't stand out, you're invisible. That's why I advise against copying headlines and descriptions from your competitors, because you're just going to blend in more. So after you've conducted your research and developed your unique selling points, first of all, make sure that your headlines and descriptions include the keywords you're targeting, at least several of them, and then go ahead and include those unique selling points, that emotional language, those pain points and solutions that you can offer in your headlines and descriptions. All right, now let's actually write your ads. First of all, you need to add your final URL. This is the landing page that Google will be bringing your potential customers to after they click your ads. So for best performance, this page needs to be highly relevant to the user's searches that you're trying to target in your ad group. In my case, I would use a page specifically for women's skinny jeans as the final URL here. Next is the display path. And this is actually the URL that your customers will see in your ads, not necessarily the URL where your customers will be landing on. So essentially, this is another opportunity for you to communicate exactly what you're promoting or what's most important about your product or your services. In my case, I'm just going to add women's slash skinny jeans. Next, scroll down to your headlines and you can add up to 15, and you should add all of them unless you're working with a very small budget. Several of your headlines need to include the keywords you're targeting. And for the very first headline, I always use keyword insertion. You just open a curly bracket, select keyword insertion, and set your primary keyword as the default text. With keyword insertion, Google Ads will try to replace this code with one of your keywords in your ad group, whichever one triggered the search term of the user. But when the keyword is too long, Google will fall back to the default text that you added here. Then, add a few more headlines with your keywords, maybe mixing in those interesting phrases you found during your research. Next, if you're running any promotions or sales, add those. People love saving money, so something like 15% off all skinny jeans works really well. Even if you don't have promotions, think about how you can frame your value differently, like save 50% on air conditioning, for example. Next, add a few headlines with your competitive advantages, benefits, pain points, and emotional language you found in your research. Also, statistics and numbers work really well. So if you have them, use them, like rated 4.9 by 1,000 customers or 24/7 customer service makes you stand out immediately. Add a couple of clear calls to action, like shop jeans now or book a free call today. If location matters, include it, or use location insertion if you're targeting multiple areas. If relevant, add urgency or scarcity with limited stock available or sale ends soon, or even use dynamic countdown if you have a specific end date. And definitely include some social proof like ratings or guarantees. Add your brand name to a few headlines as well. And please check your spelling. A typo in your ad immediately makes you look unprofessional. You also have the option to pin your headlines to a certain position so that only this headline or group of headlines are allowed to appear there. So this is something you can test in the future. For now, if you're not sure, just leave your headlines unpinned, meaning that Google will determine which headlines to use and where. Now, for descriptions, you have 90 characters here, and this is where you can expand on your headlines, use emotional language, emphasize your competitive advantages, customer pain points, include call to action, and so on. And most importantly, when writing your descriptions, think about how they will look alongside your headlines. And just like with headlines, you have an option to pin a description to a certain position. I suggest leaving them unpinned and testing it later. Next, add images. These images will appear alongside your search ads, so they need to maintain that principle of relevance. In my example, for a skinny jeans for women ad group, I would add images of women's skinny jeans. For blue jeans, and so on and so forth. You can upload images from your computer, or you can generate images with Google AI by uploading a few reference images, describing what kind of images you want. You can even select an aspect ratio and generate some images, or you can also grab images from your merchant center. Also, if you type in your website URL here, you can grab some images from your website. And finally, you can also grab some of Google's free stock images as well, if you can find anything relevant for your product or service. Next, your business name. This one should match your website URL or your verified advertiser name. This name is going to be visible to your customers in your search ads. Until you add an approved business name here, your search ads will just display your URL instead of your business name. Next, add your business logo. Keep in mind here that your business logo will be displayed in a circle in a very small size, so keep this logo simple. If it's too busy, it's going to be unrecognizable and difficult to read. Next, add your site links. These are the links that are going to appear below your headlines and descriptions in a couple of possible formats. Here you already will have some account level site links applicable if you set them up at the account level. And you can also create new site links for this ad group as well, specifically. So think about what additional pages would be relevant and useful for people who are looking for what you're trying to promote and what keywords you're using for this ad group. Good pages for site links are the ones that enhance customer journeys or are usually a part of it. So for example, for my case, for skinny jeans ad group, I can add something like women's skinny jeans, saloon jeans, size guide, etc. Next, by expanding this dropdown, you can add more assets to this ad group. I've made a separate video explaining all different types of assets on Google Ads. If you want to dive in deeper, you can watch it later. For now, let's quickly run through them. Promotions. These are going to appear below your ads if you're running a promotion. I highly recommend taking advantage of this asset. Otherwise, you can skip it. Prices. Add price assets only if you have attractive and competitive prices. Otherwise, skip them. If your phone number is usually a part of your customer's conversion journey and your calls drive business for you, then add a call asset as well. It's going to appear with a call button below your ads. Same with messages. Callouts are these additional non-clickable snippets of business information that maybe can nudge your potential customers in the right direction. Here you can add things that make your business stand out, your products or services, key benefits, and so on. Structured snippets are used to highlight your product or service catalog variety. If this is relevant for you, you can also add it. The lead form is used to collect leads directly from your ad. The lead form setup is pretty extensive. I'm not going to go through it in this video. If you want to collect leads from your ads directly, I highly recommend watching my video about ad assets. If you're not collecting leads, obviously just skip it. Next, if your business location is driving business for you, you can add a location asset here. But first, in order for a location to become available for you here under assets, you need to add your location in your locations manager. And if you do add a location asset, your location will be displayed right below your ad. And if your customers click on it, they're going to see your location information, such as open hours, directions, phone numbers, and so on. Finally, if you have an app, especially if you have a strong app that is actually driving business for you, add it. Otherwise, just skip it. A couple of quick agency-backed tips I can give you here is that first, when it comes to writing your assets, think about how they would look alongside your ads. Second, if you have the capacity for it, tailor your assets to each specific ad group following this principle of maximum relevance for this specific search theme. And finally, go ahead and turn off automatically created assets to prevent Google from generating assets for you automatically, because in most cases, these assets are not going to be good and will not perform well. Next, in case you're using a third-party click tracker, you can add your tracking template, final URL suffix, and your custom parameters here. Otherwise, you can just skip it. Click Save, and this is going to save your ad group. For now, regardless of how many ad groups you're planning to create in this campaign, I suggest you to continue with just one ad group. Later, I'm going to show you a better way to create new ad groups rather than creating all your ad groups here in campaign setup. So just click Next. The next step is setting up your budget. This is an average daily budget. You're going to have a few recommended options from Google, or you can set a custom budget right here. Alternatively, You can also set a total campaign budget, but this only works if you set an end date for your campaign. So when it comes to your campaign budget, ideally, you should be aiming at getting at least 30 conversions every 30 days. So ideally, your budget should be high enough for you to generate on average one conversion per day, whether it's a sale or a lead submission event. I understand that this is not realistic for all businesses, and you can be successful with a smaller budget, but the speed with which you're able to gather data and optimize will be much slower. So set whatever budget you're comfortable with and click next. The final step is reviewing your campaign before publishing. Here you can quickly check all the campaign settings that you've just set up. You can also click here and return to double check your ad group if you need to. And once you're ready, click publish campaign. Finally, your campaign is published, but we're still not done. Navigate to the campaign you just published, open it, go to the ads level, select the ad you just created, click this drop down and click copy, then unselect it and click this paste button. This is going to take up to a minute or two for this ad to be duplicated. Once it appears here, click on this edit button and change one element of the ad. Maybe try pinning a headline, maybe try a different landing page. Basically change just one element of the ad so you have two ads in your ad group. And the idea here is that over time, as you're gathering data, you will be able to tell which ad performs better and then pause the underperforming ad, duplicate the winning ad, and test something else. Just make sure to keep track of what you're testing here. Now, there is an important note I need to make here. If you're working with a small budget and limited conversions, you're usually much better off running just one ad per ad group. Otherwise, you're splitting your data and slowing down learning. Instead, focus on improving a single ad. After it gathers data, click View Asset Details to see which headlines and descriptions drive clicks and conversions. Replace the weak ones and optimize from there. Don't split test multiple ads until you have enough conversion volume to compare them properly. Otherwise, you're just guessing. And once you're done with this, navigate to your ad group level and copy and paste your ad group with the same principle. I've made a video about Google Ads Editor with which you can duplicate ads and ad groups much faster. But for the purposes of this tutorial, let's stay inside Google Ads interface. Anyway, after your ad group is created, you can change this newly created ad group by going inside it and changing your keywords, then navigating to ads and changing up the ads by following this principle that your ads need to be tightly grouped around a certain theme. And by duplicating these ad groups and updating your keywords and ads inside each ad group, this is how you're going to achieve this structure in your search campaign. Now, before we move on to the last foundational pillar of a successful search campaign, let's rewind back to our targeting pillar because there is another targeting method available on search. First, if you navigate to keywords, you can add your negative keywords here, either to the entire campaign or to a specific ad group. And if you navigate to your ad groups, click this plus button, you're able to create a dynamic ad group. Dynamic search ads, or DSA, don't use keywords in the traditional sense. Instead, they use your website content to match people's searches on Google and dynamically generate ad headlines and select landing pages. It's essentially a predecessor of ROImonks, and I suspect that eventually Google will deprecate dynamic search ads and will just keep ROImonks. But for now, we have both options available to us. So if you choose not to use ROImonks, you will benefit the most from dynamic search ads. So I suggest you test them out. But the prerequisite for dynamic search ads is that you need to have a mature account with conversion data already rolling in consistently, and you need to have a strong, up-to-date website with good content that represents your products or services really well. Add your ad group name here, and below you have some recommended dynamic targeting options. You have an option to target by search categories, one of which is landing pages from your standard ad groups. This option targets all web pages that you are currently using as landing pages in your existing standard search ad campaigns across your account. This is a great way to easily expand your reach and increase traffic to pages you're already actually advertising. So I recommend you definitely test these targeting options. Specific web pages. This category offers more granular control over which pages to target. All web pages. This target includes every page within your website's domain that Google's search and ad crawlers can discover. If you choose this option, I strongly recommend to set up exclusions for any pages you never want to drive traffic to, such as sold out pages, unavailable product pages, or maybe like a privacy policy or something like that. If you're new to dynamic search ads, I recommend you start with landing pages from your standard ad groups here. And if this targeting option performs well, you can expand to the rest of the pages and categories. In the reporting, you will be able to see performance by each targeting option, so it's okay to have multiple dynamic targets at once. The next step is creating your dynamic search ad. Google will generate your final URL, headline, and the display URL automatically. The only part of the ad copy you provide is the description text. This is where you can add your creative messaging and calls to actions. Click Done, then Save and Continue. So your campaign is now ready, but a successful search campaign is not a set it and forget it thing. I've made another video about how to split test search ads properly, but if I could give you just one piece of advice here, it's to keep testing everything. Your campaign structure, settings, keywords, messaging, and so on, because that's the only way you can consistently improve your ad performance. Finally, let's move on to the fifth and final pillar of a pro-level search campaign, and this is the hard truth of Google Ads. If you don't have a product that is competitive in the market and that has some level of demand for it, a search campaign and even Google Ads in general cannot take your business from zero to hero. What I want you to keep in mind is that when people go on Google search and they search for a product or a service, your ad is going to appear alongside up to 3 other ads. You're also appearing next to organic results and AI overviews. If you're in e-commerce, your search ads are also going to appear below shopping ads. Of course, your brand positioning, your quality, your unique selling points, and so on, that's all very important. But if your product is fundamentally the same as your competitors, then your offer on Google Ads is critical. You need to make sure that your offer is competitive, because it takes just a couple of clicks for a person to comparison shop, to check different product and service providers and find the right product or service for them. If you cannot reduce your pricing, think about other ways you can make your offer more competitive and attractive based on your research and your target audience. So that's it. That's how you set up a pro-level search campaign. I hope you found this video helpful. Putting it together took so much work, especially the editing, and I do all my editing myself. So if you found this video valuable, please support my work by leaving a like, a comment, and by subscribing for more Google Ads value. If you need more help with Google Ads or any other advertising platform, or are interested in performance marketing agency services, check out ROImonks links in the description. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. Good luck with your search campaign, and I will see you in the next one.